Hey, my name's Jude. Last video, spring quarter 2018. I just like to talk about my overview of my research project, which is about the tensions between African communities and African American communities in the context of the USA. Obviously, within the diaspora, I guess I want to say there is a sense of unity, the Pan-Africanism. There's a sense of unity and trying to better ourselves as a diaspora and communities, and individual communities as well. But in the context of America, there are tensions that are not really researched. Um, you will hear researchers, look at Asian communities and how they're different and how they have beefs, or not well beefs, but more so just conflicts with each other. But you won't hear them talk about African diaspora, and more specifically in the context of the USA. And I want to do a project on that because I'm Ugandan American, born to Ugandan parents, and with that, living in America, there is that sense of like African Americans are the others, and Africans are better, and not they don't do it maliciously. It's just what America is. This how America presents African Americans, and African immigrants have that same view as white Americans when you look at African Americans, and that also does play a role when they criticize AAVE. So I was just trying to have a little project on that, and I did look up an article. I found an article about not really about the tensions of, not really so much about the perception of AAVE from an African perspective, but more on just the tensions overall. And it talked about how Africans here don't like how African Americans are embracing their African heritage because they don't know where they come from, and that type of thing. So I feel like even though AAVE's perception is not really studied or researched, it does play a role because it does stem from, you can safely assume that yeah, there could also be Africans do look at AAVE as I guess, a lazy, or just it's not an official language of sorts. Um, I can say that I think it is real because my parents, especially my father, he's not so keen on AAVE, and it's funny because he's actually been using a lot of AAVE lately. Not really like double negatives, but more just I'll pull up, or those things, like those type of phrases. He is slowly, but he still does criticize heavily on why are you talking like those rappers? Why do you talk ghetto? Why do you talk why do you talk ghetto? That's the really the main criticism. And so I do believe that there is tension between those two communities in the context of America. I do live it. My father has criticized me for speaking like African Americans here, and there was an article about how tensions between those two communities, and how they talk about, oh, you can't really embrace your culture, you don't know where you come from, blah 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 blah. Um, I I Professor Akudanobi, who I'll talk to tomorrow. I'm sure he has a great insight on this as well. He is an African, um, I believe he's a Nigerian professor here at UCSB. So I feel like he can provide a pretty unique insight. I'm a young African speaking to an African from a past generation, so I'm sure that would definitely help with my project. And yeah, um, I'm sure this is a lot of fun. I don't know if I'll find anything groundbreaking. I don't expect to. That wasn't really the goal. It's just more of just having a better understanding of where we're at, as a diaspora in the context of America.